Okay, I'm back out here with the JFS F-22 Nano V1, testing out some more 2S lipos. I've got a 400 milliamp 2S lipo in it right now, trying to get the balance just right and the deflection on the control surfaces just right, but we'll talk about that when we get back at the HQ. Wind is 3 to 5. Let's get it in the air. And 50% seems to be a good, 50 to 60% seems to be a good cruising speed with it on this 2S lipo. Yeah, I like the roll rate there. I decreased it a little bit on the ailerons. Let's go vertical. How about that? And I was flying at cruising speed when I pulled vertical. I didn't get a run at it. It doesn't have unlimited vertical at this weight with this thrust on this power system, but it's pretty respectable. It will push it vertical for a while. Yeah, that roll rate may still need to be toned down a little bit. But oh my gosh, this thing is a little rocket ship on a 2S. Check that out. I started that roll at a pretty slow speed and it pushed it right up and through a big loop. So I'm trying to get the right size lipo in here for the right amount of flight time that I would like to get out of it. All my little 2S lipos like this are, some wind. All my little 2S lipos like this are pretty old, pretty tired. I'm going to have to invest in some new lipos this coming year. But I think I like the weight of that 400 milliamp 2S lipo. It's still pretty, it is pretty darn nimble with the weight of that 400 2S lipo. Hopefully it'll give me at least 5 minutes of flight time even with these old tired lipos, and hopefully with new ones it'll give me close to 6 minutes. Isn't that awesome? You know, doesn't that look, at the weight that it's at right now with the 2S power system with this 400 milliamp 2S lipo, doesn't it look pretty darn stable in the air, even in a 3 to 5 mile an hour wind? And I don't know what it weighs. All up weight, I haven't even weighed these 400 milliamp 2S lipos yet. I had been flying it with 300 milliamp 2S lipos and it was 55.5 grams. I assume it's probably around 60. Look at that. Is that awesome? And it just holds its line. Uh-oh, I am out of battery. I told you. I told you my batteries were old and tired. How much time did I have on there? That was only 3 minutes and 30 seconds, I think, of flight time. So anyway, I'm going to go recover the plane. I'm going to put another battery in it. We'll film another one with these old tired lipos. I guess I'm going to have to set my timer back to 3 minutes. My 300 milliamp lipos, which I guess are not as old and tired as these, were giving me 4 minutes of flight time. And they're old. I guess I should have tested the voltage in it before I put it in the plane. But anyway, I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, so that didn't quite go as planned, but I did see something that I really liked when I lost power. Did you see when the plane lost complete power? Did you see what the Nano Parkjet did? Did you notice how nice and soft the glide was as it was coming back down when I went and recovered the plane, it was just sitting flat on the ground, no damage whatsoever. So the fact that the motor was no longer pushing that through the air, and it had that nice gentle glide down, tells me that the balance and the CG on this little Nano Parkjet are right where they should be. That was awesome. I figured when I got there I would have a wrinkled up nose or something, but it just came down. It just glided down softly and sat down on the ground. So I'm real happy about that, especially with the added weight of the 2S power system. I did weigh it with the 400 milliamp LiPo, and it was 60.45 grams all up weight with the 2S LiPo and the voltage regulator. The reason that I didn't have another video after that one is because it was not the battery. The battery did not run out. When I recovered the plane and walked back to the truck and put it on the battery meter, the pack had 7.55 volts in the pack. So if you look at how many volts it was using per pack per minute, it was using, and I was in the throttle quite a bit during that 3.5 minutes I had it up. It was pulling 0.1 volts per cell or 0.2 volts for the pack for every minute of flight time. So even with that old tired 400 milliamp 2S LiPo that I had in there, you should be able to get 7 minutes of flight time the way I was flying it, 7 minutes of flight time, not pulling the cells down below 3.5 volts. And that's just a standard LiPo. It charges the 4.2. Because when I started, I took the voltage of that pack before I put it in the plane. Even though I had charged it up last night, late last night, and then went out flying early this morning, the pack had already reduced in voltage to 8.2 volts. So 8.2 volts, 4.1 volts per cell, less the amount of volts that was in it, divided by 3.5 minutes, you calculate how many minutes you could get. Now I hate to ever take the cells down below 3.5 volts, but I like to leave at least 3.6 in them. So even with that old pack, I should be able to get 6 minutes of flight time out of a full pack, one that would charge all the way up to 8.4. Should be able to get 6 minutes of flight time while leaving 7.2 volts in the pack or 3.6 volts per cell. I think that's pretty darn good considering the amount of power, thrust to weight ratio that it has. And it was some kind of electrical connection. I don't know if I've got a loose connection in the wiring going from the ESC to the motor, or if I've got a loose wire, a power wire going from the battery to the ESC, because when I got back to the truck, I hooked a new battery up to it and tried to run the motor, and the motor just stuttered. And I've checked the components after every flight for heat. The motor never even gets warm, which really surprised me. I figured 1102, 13,500 kV motor swinging a 65 millimeter by 65 millimeter prop, a 2.5 inch diameter prop, 2.5 inch pitch. I figured this thing would just be burn your finger hot after 3 minutes of flight. And I have flown it for 4 minutes in the throttle just as much as I was during this flight, and it's barely warm. Same thing with the ESC. I checked the ESC after every flight, barely warm. I checked the receivers and the servos, and there's nothing that is really warm to the touch anywhere as far as the electronics go. So I know it's not a problem with the power system, it's a problem with the wiring somewhere. So I'm going to have to pull everything out, get the multimeter out, check resistance and see where it is, and then I'll be taking it back out again. But I tested it with 450 milliamp 2S LiPos, I tested it with 300 milliamp 2S LiPos, and I tested it with those 400s. And the 400s weigh 2.45 grams is what one of those LiPos weighs. which brings the all-up weight of the plane, I think I stated before, it's 60.45 grams. So I really like the feel of the 400 milliamp lipos in this Nano Parkjet, and it was heavy enough for the speed that it was really locked in. If you watch the loops and stuff that I was performing, and I was on the ground, it was 3 to 5 mile an hour wind. Usually 20 or 30 feet up, it's considerably more. And when I was doing those big, long, wide loops, this thing just kept its track all the way up, all the way through the loop. I mean, it didn't drift at all. So and it's very nimble with that 400 in there. So I like the weight, I like the feel, I like the way it performs it that way on a 2S power system. And I gotta tell you, this was a lot of fun on a 1S power system, but on a 2S power system with that kind of power, that is an absolute blast. All the links to the electronics, I will add a couple of links for batteries that are, I don't know if I can get these batteries anymore, but I will provide links to a couple of 2-cell lipos that are about the same size and the same weight to use in this plane if you want to build it, put a 2S power system in it, or a 1S power system. But I think everything is in there except for the 2S lipo and a variable voltage regulator, and I'll provide you a link with that as well. So man, what a blast. I wish I wouldn't have had an electrical problem. I had 2 more battery packs that I was going to put through it, and I just had an absolute blast with it out there today. So stay tuned. You're going to see a lot more flights on this little guy with a 2S power system, and that is just awesome. I absolutely love it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.